Great. So welcome everyone to our iOS developer online class. Today we will have theoretical plus practical lesson. We will speak about who is iOS developer and what skills are needed to become iOS developer, and then we will show you Swift UI code. So about Black Screen School. The Black Screen AI is the project of our Programming Academy PASV, which is founded in 2016 in California. All our teachers, all our mentors are from IT sphere, and they work in international IT companies, and they are ready to share their experience with our students. All our programs are developed considering the requirements of modern IT corporations. So if you will open vacancy and read what skills are needed and what tools are needed, you can find all of them in our program. And about your instructor today, it's Wylan Neely. So Wylan, please take the floor and introduce yourself. Thank you.
Hello guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Wylan Neely. I will be your instructor here. I have been a professional iOS developer with more than 7 years of experience. I've experienced using Swift, Objective-C, UX, UI, Swift mobile developer, everything. iPad OS, watch OS, anything on a Mac I could do. So I have a strong background in creating high quality mobile applications. I will share a couple of links if you want to check them out after. I am proficient, I'd say advanced, in Swift, Objective-C, and Apple's guidelines. I can help you get your app past the Apple guards and onto the mobile store. I am also skilled in UX and UI design, integrating RESTful APIs. That just means talking to the internet and getting data from the internet, integrating that into your app, and agile methods. Agile methods. Sorry, choking on my coffee. Today, in today's world, you need to learn a little bit of UI. You need to learn a little bit of API integration. It's not as segmented as it was when I started 7 years ago. So I'm known for enhancing user engagement, delivering projects on time, and maintaining high quality code, as well as industry standards of developing your code so your company will like what you are putting out. I am passionate about always learning and always innovating in my apps and mobile development as a whole. In this field, it's very high paced. You should always be learning something to stay relevant and to stay hireable. We can do the next slide.
Thank you for this introduction. In this introduction, we already can hear what skills are needed. It's time management. Yes, good time management to give projects on time. And then I heard about the UX/UI design experience, which is cool. So as I understand, if someone of participants have also experience in UX/UI, it will help to like grow in iOS development, right?
Especially if you're trying to make your own apps take off in your own software, it's good to know UI and UX design. A lot of times, I'm sure there's some UI and UX designers in this room right now that would like to now learn how to program and make their designs a reality. I started from the software first and got into UI after, but some people start from design first and get into software after they learn design. So either way you do it, as long as most likely you're going to have to do some of both if you're going to be in the mobile app field.
It's very interesting. So if someone have their pet projects, they can develop their own app, and like move it to App Store, right?
Yes, that's some of the best. That's the best part of this is putting up your designs, making it work, and then moving it to the App Store.
Great, thank you. So the next slide shows us the average base salary, but it also depends in which stage. Hmm? Hey, you have a question? If someone have question, don't hesitate to ask us. Okay. So in this slide we see salary, but it also depends in which state you are. And also if you are applying for junior position or middle position. And in our school, in our course, we give our students opportunity to participate in American project, and this gives you real experience which you can put on your CV. You can talk about your project, and so you can apply not only for junior positions but also for middle positions. Okay. Also, we will prepare our students for the interview, both technical and behavior questions. Okay, let's move this slide to the end of our webinar. I will talk about the course, about the prices, about special conditions for participants, but all this in the end. Okay. Now, Violet, please take the floor and tell us about iOS developer, what skills I needed to become, and show us Swift UI. Thank you.
So today we're going to be working on some UIKit stuff. Pulled up a little bit of a project. If you guys can download, if you want to follow along, or you could do this after as well. The GitHub link I posted to the chat has the pictures we will be using for the app. So while you guys are downloading those images, I'm going to share my screen and show you guys a couple of the apps I've recently been working on before we get into it, just to show you guys where you will become after a couple of years of development. So let's share my desktop for now so you guys can see my entire screen. So the most recent app I just released, we'll open up the App Store, is an app that teaches kids how to write. I called it so this is it right here, Bring Writing to Life. So I'm not the most advanced iOS developer. I mean, not iOS developer, the mobile UX and UI, so the way it looks, but I thought I did pretty good here. Are you guys seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I designed all of this. You're going to learn how to design and put it all on the App Store and make sure Apple approves it. And we're going to take you from the start to the finish. So we'll have you guys draft up some stuff in Figma. A lot of people use Figma for the UX and UI design, your portfolio project, and then we'll get you guys onto Xcode. So this is my last project. I'll show you guys another one. And all of these I've designed myself. You don't need to go hire a developer or a designer. You can just do it yourself. All right. And so this one as well. So here's another one I designed. It's a tracker, a day tracker. So very simple design or very more complex design, you guys can choose. So right now, we're going to open up Xcode and we're going to start the demo. So put this here. And so we're going to click new project. We're going to click app right here. All these other things, for now, we'll get more into these as the lessons go on. But for today, we're just going to go regular app. not worry about the framework, any of this stuff today. So we're going to come up with a name for your app. Today we're going to call it Planets Demo. Team, this has to do with if you paid. So if you paid for a developer suite, you'll have a paid team. If not, probably be skipping that. But that just means what team are you going to be using to publish to the App Store. Your organization identifier, this is a unique code that gets pushed out to Apple so they know how to store your app. So when you're publishing your app to the App Store, this code right here is going to show you exactly how to show Apple exactly where to look for your app. And so generally we use a com.yourwebsite.apps and then the name right here. This is the real bundle identifier. That's what will pop up and be sent to Apple. So today we're going to be using regular storyboards. Swift UI is a little more advanced. We'll get into that probably about halfway through the course. And then we're going to use regular Swift, not Objective-C. Storage, this has to do with how the device will save data, how your app will save data. Today, we're not going to be worrying about storage. So we're going to click none. No tests. We'll go over all this as the course progresses. Let's go next. And we're going to create. You're going to want to put a folder to have all your applications in. I just use applications 2022. I've been using that same one since, of course, 2022, but as long as you know where to find it. Boom. So create. App's going to load up a little bit. And as that's loading up, we're going to take that file of all the pictures. Right here, it's down here a little bit. Sorry, I got a mess. And we're going to drop your images right into here and then finish. We're going to drop that file right into there.
If
Now let's go and
someone
make this
wants
full
us
screen.
to repeat what we did or explain, don't hesitate to unmute yourself and ask questions, okay?
Do not be afraid to unmute and ask questions. I know I'm going a little bit fast. It's just my style. So when you open up the app, you're going to get the targets page.
I have one question.
Yes.
For interrupting. So what are we doing here? Are we creating the kind of the project here? This
We're creating a quick demo app.
It's not a project, right?
It is a project. It's a small project, just one we could do within 45 minutes.
It's not a framework.
We're creating an application, an app. Yeah, it's gonna be in here. I'm just going through some stuff before we get into the meat and bones of the application.
Yeah. Now we prepare to create the application. We will be building a planets app that should images of the planets and some basic stars. Okay.
Yeah, we're going to be showing you UIKit and how UIKit sort of works, how it does work, along with storyboards and classes. But before we get into the project, so you guys are not confused, we're going to go right up here to the targets. Move some stuff around. And so right here we have destination. We're only going to be publishing the iPhone for today. So let's click the minus button, Apple Vision, the minus button. So what this means right here, minimum deployments. This is the minimum software allowed on your application when you click play. So on your iPhone, you might have iOS 15.0, iOS 16.0. So what this means is 17.5 is the minimum software allowed for your app to run. So for today, we're doing a more simple app. We're going to go back in time. We'll put it around 14. We'll do around 14 today. 14.0. So app category, all this stuff, we're going to focus on another time, but the display name, we're going to go planets. And what that means is when your app loads up on your phone or on your simulator, this is the words the title that is below the app. So this is what we'll display there. Deployment info. So this is the orientation in which your app will work. Today, we're just going to be working on portrait, which is up and down. Landscape left, landscape right. Pretty self-explanatory. We're not going to worry about an app icon today, but this is where you would load up your app icon, which just displays the icon. So I hope you guys have your folders loaded up of all your pictures we'll be using today. Pretty cool pictures. And so for now, we're going to open up your assets. This
And also the GitHub link sent to the chat.
I did. So
Ah,
inside of the Zoom chat, I put a link to the GitHub where you can download these images, these 7 images. So once you have the project folder in here, we're going to drag each one into this asset file. So first open up the assets. Right here, you click on assets, and we're gonna load them up and drag each one into there. What this does is it makes it easier for storyboards to find these images. So if we were loading everything up inside of a view controller by typing it all up, say like load image, we would have to actually type out, we'd have to create an image class and load each one by its file. But since we just dropped them into the assets, it makes it more convenient. So now when we open up our storyboard, we can easily access what's in the assets file. You guys have any questions so far?
Yeah, you not share the GitHub link in a Zoom chat.
Pretty sure I did. Scroll up to the beginning.
Maybe I join later. Sorry for that.
Oh, let me I'll repost it. Oh yeah, you might have joined a little. I posted it at.
no, I sent it again. Do you see it?
Okay, thank you. Repost that. That'd be nice. So while you're loading those up, I will explain a couple of things here. So you're gonna hold Alt and click the main storyboard. So have your view controller loaded up here and Alt click to open your main. And so the Alt click, it just split screens it so you can have 2 pieces of code running at the same time. Put this down here. So what we're gonna first do is we're gonna change the name of your view controller over here, and we're gonna make it something that is a little more descriptive. So let's refactor, rename. Let's call it the home. And so when you hit that refactor way that I did it, it's also going to change every file in your project associated with that name. So as you
And
can
you
see, it's
choose the
also,
name as you want.
you could choose any name you want. The name is just for you. We could call it space, home, background, whatever is most descriptive to you. We could do space, view controller. I'm just doing home because that's a naming convention that would refer to the home page of the main access point inside your app. So let's click rename. And now over here on my storyboard, it's changed this to home view controller. And we're going to make a couple view controllers so you guys get the idea. But what a view controller is it's a class. And what it does is it controls everything you guys view. So anything you see that is viewed and presented to you, that's what a view controller is. You control everything inside of a view. And so what this little arrow does is when you open the app, this is the very first view controller that the person will see. So now we're going to make a background view. So we're going to make it so you guys can see a background image inside of the view. How we're going to do that is we're going to click the plus button up here. We're going to type in image view, self-explanatory, view and image. Put that right there. And we're going to drag it out to fill the entire screen. Now, once you guys have the UI image view all pulled out to fill up the entire view controller, we're going to go click down right here, add new constraints, this little box with the lines. We're going to go 0, 0, 0, 0. What this means is it's going to constrain it with 0 points in between the two views. So let's add the constraints. So now we've created a constraint right here. The image view, the bottom of the image view is constrained to the super view bottom with 0 points in between it. The leading edge of the image view is constrained to the safe area of the leading. And you can change this if you would want it to go to the super view. We're going to do just this, the super view for now. And then the top as well. A lot of times, let's see what they did on the top. Super view top to the image view top. If you changed it to the safe area, let's just pretend that it's 0 here. Now it's constrained to, the image will be constrained right to the safe area, which is considered touch safe. So up here, you generally have all the toolbar stuff. And so a lot of times you'll want to constrain certain views within the touch area of the view. But for today, we're doing a background image. So let's constrain it to the super view. Boom, 0. All right. So now we're going to pick an image. We're going to go the space cloud background. Boom. So now we have a background image. But wait, it's not filling out the whole screen. So there's a couple ways we can tell this image to redefine itself inside of this image view. So that you go down here to content mode, aspect fit. Let's play around with it. Scale to fill, so it's going to stretch it out. Still looks all right. Or we can go aspect fill. And I'm not going to get too much into the differences of what each of those do right now, but aspect fit means it fills the image up and fits it with the same aspect ratios inside of the image view. When you go scale to fill, it will stretch your image out to make sure it fits within the view. Generally, a lot of times the aspect fill works good especially for background images. So we're just going to do that for now. So now let's add a label, and we're going to click the plus button at the top. Now we're going to grab a label, put it right here, and we're going to name it solar system. Oh, solar system. It's pretty small, can't really see it, so let's make it a little bit bigger. And let's change the color to something that we could see a little bit better. No. I think orange is fine. All right. And so now let's constrain it. So right now, if we launch this app, the compiler, which is the code, which is the machine that compiles all your code and tells it where to be, wouldn't know where to put this because we have no constraints. So what we're going to do is we're going to constrain it to the center of the screen, and then we're going to constrain it to the safe area this time. So in order to do that, we go layout constraints or align, add new alignment constraints, and we're going to go horizontally inside the container. So that's boom. Now there's some red problems, but this problem is just saying, hey, we don't know where to attach the top or the bottom of it. We don't know where to attach the X and Y constraints. So we're going to do this top part. Boom. So now it knows exactly where we're going to have that solar system go on. So now let's add a couple buttons and make it the solar system sort of move around so we can see Jupiter or see Earth. So what we're going to do, ooh, my camera fell, is we're going to add a button. Let's call this one Jupiter. Make it orange so we can see it a little better. Jupiter. And let's just put it down here for now. Align horizontally in container again. This time we'll put it at the very bottom. Maybe we'll add 40 points. Go negative 40 points. Boom. So on this constraint, say very bottom, Jupiter bottom, negative 40, so up from the bottom. And what we're going to do with that button, we're going to first add another view controller. I call this one, we're going to have it so when you click this one shows. So how I did that is I left clicked, or I mean right clicked on my keyboard or on my mouse, dragged, and clicked show. I'll show you guys do that again. From the button to the new view controller, show. All these are different ways on how to show on the action between showing the next view controller. So there's show detail, which pops up from the bottom, present modally, pops down from the top, or pop over. For now, we'll just do show. And that's gonna, when this one appears, it'll leave a little bit of space up in here so we can go back to it. So now we have this brand new view controller, and we're gonna have to create a new class file over here that's gonna associate with that view controller. So let's click back on this side. Make sure you're clicking on the left code part. Then we're gonna click new, which is Apple N to open up a new file. We're gonna go Cocoa Touch class file, and we're gonna click next. So this one we're gonna call the Jupiter view controller, subclass of UI view controller. A lot of other subclasses, we'll get into these later, but for now we'll go UI view controller and language Swift. Next. And create. So now right below the home view, we now have the Jupiter view controller. So over here, so on this one, the home view, if you go right here, it's a custom class. It says home view controller. Right here, we're gonna need to assign. So click on the identity inspector, and we're gonna go class. We're gonna type out Jupiter view controller. It should fill. If not, type out Jupyter view controller. Boom. Inherit model. Make sure inherit model from target is also selected. And what that means is now anything we do to this class over here, it's going to affect this visual class right here, which is the storyboard. So let's make it a little bigger. And now let's add our image. So for this one, let's do the same thing. We're going to add a UI image or an image view. UI image view. And this time we're going to mess with the constraints a little bit to show you, to give you guys a little more experience with constraints. So this time, let's constrain it instead of doing a background image like we did over here. We're going to have the image be center horizontally and center vertically. So we're going to go align. Click both of these. On the line constraints, we're going to click both of them. Boom. And if you notice, there is still an error. Just because we know where to place the UI view, the UI image view does not mean we know how big that view should be. So there's a couple ways to fix that. You can either hard code it, which means set the pixel size to exactly what you want to be. So if we go right here, the width 300, height 300, which is an okay way, it's a decent way. But there's better ways to do that. And what we can do is we can get it to the approximate size we'd like. So let's just say 300 by, just say we like it this big. What you can do is you can right click and make it an aspect ratio. So what that means is this ratio is going to be consistent compared to the bigger view. And so once you get deeper and deeper into software development, especially with bigger companies, you are going to have to be a constraint master in the sense of creating, do they want a square or do they want more rectangle? How do I create that rectangle? Should I hard code just one side of it, the height, and then have the width be equal to the same ratio as the width of its parent class? And so it just goes deeper and deeper. But today, we're just going to go aspect ratio. Boom. Here. And now let's put our image in. This one's Jupyter, so we'll go Jupyter. And boom. So that looks pretty cool. Pretty cool. Let's make it flow a little bit better. And we'll change the background color of this view. We're not going to add an image to it. But as of right now, it says the system background color. We can do custom. We can do any color right here. Let's do black and see how that flows. Looks pretty good. Let me do something real quick. But yeah, the black's pretty much the same as that. So now we have Jupyter in there. So let's run our demo and see how it appears on the simulator. Before we click play, I hope most of you guys are following along with your computer. But if you have your phone plugged in like mine, it'll show play to iOS device right here. Let's pick a simulator for it to appear on. So I have all these simulators downloaded. You guys will probably have a fraction of these, maybe all of them, but let's pick one that's pretty universal. So we'll just do a regular iPhone 15 and click play on this simulator. So the very first time this all compiles, which is doing right here, building, it's going to take, 30 seconds to a minute. The second time you click play, it'll all be categorized and indexed, and so your compiler will run it a lot faster the next time. Do you guys have any questions so far? Nope. All right, but we're building 34 out of 52. And yeah, we'll add some more buttons, add some more images, and then we'll begin to manipulate data within this class system. I want to get you guys accustomed to storyboards a little bit before we dive into real hard code. And anything, just as a note, anything I've showed you guys on this visual representation, that's a storyboard we can write out in code. So if we really wanted to, we can create all the constraints, like constraint equal UI constraint, all this sort of stuff. And we can type it all out in code and lay it all out in here in the view did load. But for convenience purposes, Apple has created storyboards, which is a predecessor to UIKit. It's still most widely used is UIKit and storyboards, but the whole industry is slowly phasing over. It's phasing over to Swift UI, which still has a visual component like this. It's just you need a more powerful computer, and as you type it in over here, what you want it to do, it shows up on this side. So we'll get into that in another lesson, but today we're going over storyboards and UIKit. So it's still attaching the planets demo to the iPhone 15. And we can go through some stuff over here. So down here, I have my info.p list. Once your app gets bigger and bigger, this is where you would add stuff like camera access. Does your phone have camera access? Does it support, does it collect data on you? Do you have custom fonts? So all the privacy stuff that, when you open up your iPhone and you open up a brand new app, a lot of times it'll say, hey, could we access your photos? Hey, could we access your front camera? Could we access your network? Apple's very safe when it comes to privacy. They explicitly ask you, they don't just give access to any app, everything inside of your system. As an app developer, you have to ask the user if you can have access to their music, you have access to their face UI detection stuff. So all this sort of stuff is in privacy. And once we go to publishing an app, we'll get more into your bundle identifier stuff, or I mean your info.p list. Here comes the simulator. Boom. Looks pretty close. Solar system here. We have the safe zone, the safe area, which we cannot click into. It's system stuff. But we have the solar system. We have Jupiter. Let's click it. And boom, Jupiter shows up. And black is a little bit off, but it's fine for now. Boom. So now let's add some new stuff and keep on going. So we're going to go up to the plus button and make sure you guys, before you click the plus button, make sure you guys have clicked and you're over in this zone. If you've clicked over on your class file and then click the plus button, it'll try to add a convenience to add a lot of code snippets. So like all these are code snippets. We're not doing that right now. So make sure you're clicked on the storyboard area before you click the plus. Let's add a couple more view controllers. So we'll add one for Mars. And we'll add another one for Saturn. We'll do all of them by the end here. So and you guys can lay them out however you want. All this is just convenience. So you could have these way over here if you really wanted to, but I like making them so I could see them all and the flow of them as well. So let's add a button to connect to each of these view controllers. Plus button, we'll add two. The Mars one, and we'll add the Saturn one. Click on the second button in here, we'll change the title. Mars. And let's change the tint to red, because that's what I think of when I think of Mars. And then the last one, we'll do Saturn. Oh. Saturn. And I think of Saturn, I think more of like a yellow, orangish. Let's go yellow. All right. So now that we have our buttons, let's connect them to our view controllers. We're going to right click on the Mars, drag it down to here, show. Saturn, show. 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 Let's go over to here. And we're going to create our class files associated with those view controllers. So Apple N, Cocoa Touch class, Mars, create. And we'll do that one more time for stacking. And create. Cool. So before we go into here, we're going to go Identity Inspector, make sure the Mars one, Mars, see where the line's going, is, and so see right here, when I clicked here, so I'm actually clicked on the view. So if it says right here, class UI view, that means we're clicked on the wrong place. We're going to want to click the view controller, which hosts the view inside of it. Now we'll do this to Mars view controller and make sure it inherits the module from the target. And then the last one is the Saturn one. Let's see, Saturn. And the same thing, we'll click the view controller up here. And Saturn. Where's the view controller? Now let's click the plus up here. We're gonna add a view image view, which is UI image view. Let's mix it up, show you guys how constraints can work differently. We will constraint. We're going to constraint it to the margins. And so if you noticed right here when I was getting close, these are just the margins. The margins are more of a UI purpose. Back in the day, they used to have functionalities associated with them, like swipe, 3D presses and stuff like that. But margins are more of just to make more of a UI principle than an actual software principle. If we wanted to, we could just constrain them straight to the sides, but let's just do them on the margins for now. Margin. Back to open constraint to margins, 16. Boom. So now it's constrained to the margins. And then when it comes to the height, we're going to mess around with it. One thing. And go equal heights. Now let's open up the image and we're going to go Mars. Chink. Cool. Now we have Mars. Last but not least, let's change the background of the main super view, which contains the image view. We'll get into class and subclassing on the future lesson once we start the program. But we're going to change it to black. And you know what? Let's actually do a custom black. And we're going to hit this little eyedropper. We're going to do the same black that's in the background of the Mars. So now it completely fades into it without having the little lines like we have over on this one. Let's go over to Jupiter. Or I mean, Saturn. Getting a little error. Yeah. So let's do the same thing over here. On the Saturn view, we're going to add an image. Oh, not a label. UI image view. Pull it right into here. And we're going to stretch it out a little bit. Saturn's a little bit bigger. And we'll get into the code before this finishes up as well. We'll do something a little different. Show you the guys the power code. So now let's constraint it center to center. And you guys play around with the constraints. Constrain it to the top if you want, bottom. Mess around with it so you guys can learn the flow of the leading, the trailing, the top, the bottom, and learn the flow of different constraints. Even play around with the heights and the widths, hard coding that instead of doing by aspect ratios like what I did with this middle one. So this last one, we'll do Saturn. Boom. Pretty cool image. And even, you know, mess around with the scale to fill, aspect fill, whatever you guys want. Just so you guys get comfortable and accustomed to the different variables that are within the storyboard. So the same thing here, we'll do the background. Make sure we're clicking this super view. Let's close these up to be more organized. Super view, Saturn. So let's change the color of the view. Right now it's at the system background color. Let's do the same thing we did with Mars, go custom here. Click the wrong color, but go background custom. Boom. Now it looks pretty good. Yeah, that's fine. All right, so now let's load up our simulator. Now we're gonna go click play in the top left, which is build, replace. And so this replace comes up if you already have an active simulator. We are already running this. So this just replaces the current code with the code we've just created. Cool. Now I have Saturn, Mars, and Jupiter. Let's do Mars, make sure it's working. Yep. Looks like Mars, cool picture of Mars. Saturn, it's a little chopped out. We can edit that. And we'll go Jupiter. We didn't do the custom color, so the borders kind of bleed into it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to actually send data through these buttons from this class to this class, from our home view class to one of the planet subclass view controllers. So how we're going to do that is let's open up. So see when we have the navigation. So on our home view, we don't have this code down here, but on one of these smaller ones, we have it commented out just as convenience. So let's go to any of the Jupiter, Mars, or Saturn ones, and we're going to comment out this convenience class. Override prepare for UI storyboard segue. And so we're going to control copy this. You know what? Instead of doing control copy, let's just open up the home because I want you guys to actually type it out. So this one is prepare for segue, UI storyboard segue, sender any. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up the home. We're going to go type out pair interface builder for, so all these are inside of this UI view controller. They're not exposed. So by typing prepare, it opens up 3 functions that have the word prepare in them. And all of these are within the UI view controller itself. So let's go prepare for storyboard segue. And it fills out the rest for us for now. But there are tons of functions that are within the UI view controller. So just to play around, let's go view. So all of these, view did appear, view will appear, view is appearing, view. So all of these functions are actually hidden within this UI view controller subclass. Let's delete that. We'll get into classes and subclassing on your first lesson. And so basically when we make this class, it goes home view controller and it subclasses to here, and that gives us exposure to all these overrides. So prepare for segue, UI storyboard segue. So now we're going to type out if we're going to grab this segue that's getting passed in, if segue dot, we're going to go identifier. The identifier is equal to, we haven't made an identifier yet, but let's make one right now. So we're going, if the segue identifier is, let's create a segue. So this right here, this represents a segue. Now we're going to make a segue identifier. Let's just call it to Mars. Generally in Apple naming conventions, instead of just saying Mars, you'll say to Mars or from Mars. So we'll go to Mars VC, which means to Mars view controller. Enter. Now let's copy this. And we're going to add it over to here. So if you can see, this identifier takes in a string. So that's why we are adding the 2 quotation marks to make it a string. And a string is just characters. So a string refers to different characters, and that could even be numbers and stuff, but it's characters. So if the segue identifier is equal to boom, now we can perform something. So let's make, I guess we only have enough time for one today. So what we're going to do is so now we're going to tell this Mars view controller to do something. We really don't have anything in there that we can manipulate. I guess we can manipulate the background. I was going to create a label. We have enough time. So actually, go back to your Mars view controller and let's click add, and we're going to drop a label. And we're going to change the color to white so we can see it. White color. Horizontally, and we'll constrain it close to the top. And remember, play around with the constraint so it shows up how you want it. Before we mess around with this, we're going to click launch just to show you that the label won't be named anything when we open it at first. We're going to click replace. It's going to load up. click Mars, and now there's an empty label there. So now, in order to access this label on this Mars view controller, we're gonna have to place it inside of its Mars view controller. So let's go back to Files, go back to Mars view controller, and we're gonna right click this label. We're gonna drag it all the way over to the Mars view controller. We're gonna call it Mars label. Mars label. So now we have access to it within this Mars view controller. So now we can essentially access it. We could, if we wanted to, we could change the label right here after it loads, just to show you guys the power of code. Dot text is equal to Mars. We could load it up like that, which would work. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna set it up through the home view controller. So now, if the segue identifier is our Mars to view C, to Mars view controller, we are gonna create. We're gonna pass. This part is a little confusing at first, kind of counterintuitive, but just hang on with me. So now, if let destination. So if the identifier is this Mars view controller and the destination view controller is this, we're going to run the next piece of code. So if the destination view controller is equal to Mars view controller sorry.
Do we have a bug here?
We have a small bug.
It's
But-
interesting.
If destination. So generally when I come across stuff like this, I would just look at my old code. Let destination controller is equal to Mars view controller. Oh, I know what I did wrong. So if what? Sorry. Segue. Destination equal to Mars view controller. So if that is that, all right, so that's where, so this is the piece of code you're supposed to write. If the destination view controller is the segue destination and you cast it as the Mars view controller, now we have access to the Mars view controller. So I should have wrote that out before I was teaching you guys, but that's how you work through a problem. You just keep going and you will figure it out. You just have to keep going. So there we go, destination VC. Now we have access to, remember that Mars label we wrote earlier on the Mars view controller? Now we have, now that will pop up when we hit that. So now let's set the Mars label to Mars dot text. And there's other things you guys can do. Let's also change and mess around with it. These are the different things that the Mars label, the attributes you can mess around with. So you can go font, text color, alignment, all this stuff, background color. All these are inside of a Mars label and you have access to. So we'll just do text color. And as a convenient, you used to have to write UI color, named whatever. Now there's a convenience method where you can just go dot and choose the color you want. Let's go for Mars, we'll go red. Instead of that white label, it's going to be Mars, it's going to be red. And there's a million different ways to display this data. We could have done that through here. When it loads up, we could have hard coded it over in Storyboard, or we could have a lot of times you pass data through a segue. So like you would write something up here, pass that through the segue, and then it would either calculate it or display it or change the color or your settings over here. So there's a million ways to change this Mars thing. And so see, I got a fatal error. Just delete that. And we'll load it up through here. Segues are a little bit tricky. When I present the segue lesson, we will do that. But let's go back to our Mars view controller. Click the text here and equal it to Mars. And we'll go Mars label. Text color equals dot red. Boom, there it is. So most of programming is, if it doesn't work one way, you just figure out another way how to get the job done. So most of the time, especially as a junior developer, they're going to say, I want your app to look exactly like this, and I want it to work this way. There will be a million ways to complete what you're trying to do. Your job, especially as a junior developer, is just to make it work. Make it work and make sure it doesn't break.
Here's the
And so,
question. For
yes,
example, in Java language, we have libraries where we can find ready solutions for our bugs. Are there any libraries in Swift UI, for example?
yes, it's not built in, sort of how Java and the Android Studio, how it's built in at the top, and you can kind of search through libraries to help you figure out something. The libraries right here, most of them are Apple created, so like AV Studio and stuff like that. But if you want to import one of those third-party libraries, we're going to do a whole class on that. It's called Swift Package Manager and or CocoaPods. And you actually have to go download them and you will place them in here. And it would be a file. You'd have a file right here that contains all those third-party libraries. So inside of Swift, there's not as many imports. So like the most my import will have, you might have like AV Foundation, Audio Kit, you might have like 5 to 6. Your import statements won't be how as big as they are in Java, where you have sometimes like 50 imports on a class. Most of the time your imports, when you're importing a third-party framework or class, you're only going to have about 5 to 6. I think the most I have is maybe 10. But you're not going to normally have like 50 import statements like you do in Java.
Okay, thank you for your answer. So as we moved out, if we are out of time, maybe we can move to the part theoretical about iOS developer, what skills are needed and stuff like that.
The main skill that's helped me is grit. And what I mean by that is learning how to use all of your resources to solve a problem. So I have a small problem right here. My segue identifier, I forgot how to exactly cast it into a new view controller. So you could either go to Google, you can go into the docs, but basically learning how to find a problem and solve it. You might go on the internet and go to Stack Overflow or GitHub to find the solution and learn the solution. It's best not to use ChatGPT, especially as a beginner, because part of programming is learning how to think in different ways to solve the problem at hand. So you'll have all these different objects talking to each other, like this view controller object, this Mars controller, Jupiter object. Learning how to manipulate data and send it using your own brain power is huge, especially in the beginning. Once you understand the different ways that you can manipulate data and send it, like then you can rely on ChatGPT to help you out and stuff. Or if you're using a very difficult framework like Vue, or like if you're using your camera, or if you're using stuff like augmented reality, more high-end stuff, once you get the basics down of how object-oriented programming works and how they all talk to each other, stuff like that, then I would recommend you going into ChatGPT. Basically learning how to use all the resources, learning how to use all your resources to solve the problem at hand is the main skill for programming. So whether it's just sending a picture, how do I send a picture from here to here? How do I display a label? And figuring it out, that's the main part of programming. There's not going to be one way to do it. There'll be more optimized ways to do it, but there's never just one way to do anything in software.
Should I have strong mathematical skills as an iOS developer?
You don't need strong mathematical skills, but anything helps. Learning
Oh,
anything will
sure.
help. Whether that you're learning design on how to, the more design you know, the better your apps will look. The more math you know, the better they will function. So almost any skill is transferable to software development.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And what are the advantages of the Swift UI um, as a
Swift UI,
Mhm.
do you mean Swift development, or it's just
Yeah,
Swift
so
UI
what are
in
the
general?
advantages of choosing Swift UI instead of, for example, being Java developer, JavaScript maybe?
It's a great starting point to get into software development. You're learning a very specialized software, which is mobile development on iOS platform. So by learning a specialized area, and you're also learning object-oriented programming, but by learning a specialty, when you, let's say you learn how to program, you learn how to do mobile, and now you want to do more general stuff like maybe JavaScript or web development, going from a specialty, a specialized object-oriented programming especially, switching that to a more general is going to be a breeze. It's going to be a lot easier for you to pick up the rest of programming. Also, with mobile development, especially in America, 61% of people have iPhones. So by learning how to program on mobile iPhone app, your app could be published to 61% of America. And then let's say you
Amazing.
finish, yeah, and also iOS iPhone users, they do pay more for their apps than Android users. So that's another advantage. If you're trying to make an app that sells, by having it on the iPhone store first, it will most likely generate more money. I don't know if you guys remember, but Instagram was only iPhones for a bit. Pretty sure Snapchat was only iPhones for a bit. And the reason they do that is because it's cleaner and it generates more money. So then you can develop an Android application after that. Or if you want to learn React, you can publish to both, but you're still going to have to know some native development like Swift, even if you're using React, which publishes both to Android and iPhone, you're still going to have to learn some Java for the Android side and some Swift for the iPhone side, even if you learn something like React.
Great. Thank you. So as I understood, iOS developer is the best start your career in IT because developers are always needed and you have big chances to get your first job offer in first 3 months. And then like if you choose iOS developer instead of Java or JavaScript, it makes your start in IT career easier. So
More
maybe,
seamless, yeah.
yeah, maybe I can share this screen to move and show about our timeline of the course and about our special offer for the participants.
Yes, I will do stop share here.
Also, I like your background is here in Zoom
It's
on
very
our
fitting for
topic. Yeah,
the topic, yes.
very good. Okay, so guys, here is our timeline for the course. You see, we have all lessons online in like real time, so you can ask questions and you can like if you missed the lesson, we every lesson we record, so we make the recorded session and you can watch the recording and the access is not expiring, so you get lifetime access to these recordings. Also the in the end, you see here career coaching, which we mean that our HR manager will work with our students in order to help them to prepare for the interview and to make your first CV and your LinkedIn profile and to make mock interviews with you. And also you see internship, so you will get a real experience in American project, which means you will have cases for your future interview about your experience. You can talk about this project and tell what tickets you done and what was the team, how were the processes inside the project and inside your team and so on. So you get real experience and you will talk about this project on your interview. So what gives you the opportunity to put real experience in your CV and apply for middle positions. Schedule. You see here is Pacific time, 6 p.m. Pacific time. The duration of the lesson is 1 or maybe 1.5 hours. And as I mentioned, we also will record every session. So if you don't have opportunity to attempt online class, it's okay. Just watch the recording, ask your questions on the next class, or we also have chat with our teachers, so you can write down your questions there. Here is program of the course, and maybe Violet, can you give
I could talk a little bit about this. Let me open back up my
any
camera.
comments here?
So can you guys see me?
Yes.
Okay. So on history of, this is the training program. Every single lesson, we're going to go through a different component of the software development phase. So what we did today was kind of show you guys an overview of software. But once you guys get into the course, we're going to break it down piece by piece so you guys are masters by the end of this. We're going to start off with a little bit of Swift, Objective-C, and iOS development. We're going to talk about object-oriented programming. MVC and MVVC. This is model, view, controller, model, view, and view controller. So what's the difference? These are just conventions on how the industry likes to set up their code. And object-oriented programming is what we do when we're using Swift. What that means is we're creating a bunch of different objects and telling them how to interact with each other. So we have the UI, the view controller, the UI view, the image view, the label, and we're telling how the label to interact with the view object. And that's what object-oriented programming essentially is you're making objects and you're telling them how to interact with each other. The differences between classes and structures, Xcode as itself, data types, integers, doubles, strings, floats. This is basically numbers. Doubles are, they have the point value, so 1.0. Strings, we went over one string today, which is characters. And the cool thing about data types is they're universal between almost every programming language. So Java has these types of data types. JavaScript, Python, they all use these same data types, which is foundations. We're going to learn about functions, closures, inheritance, and protocols. We learned a little bit about inheritance today, which was when we were talking about the view controller and its subclass, which is UI view controller. We had access to all those pre-programmed functions, like prepare for sender and stuff like that. The native libraries, we went over UIKit and Foundation today, but there's tons of them. There's audio visual kit. So these are the native libraries that when you click import or type out import, the native ones are the ones that Apple actually creates for its code base. We're going to talk about threading, async, and await. That's more high-end stuff. We're going to talk about storyboard, get into detail, more detail about that. UI view controller, UI view. Swift Package Manager and CocoaPods. These are third-party libraries that anyone, including you or me, can create, post to the world, and people use them. Looks really good to have this for when you're applying to jobs. If you have some sort of CocoaPod you created, or they call them SPM, Swift Package Manager, that you created. So RESTful APIs and JSON data, that has to do with how we talk to the internet. This is also universal stuff. So the .git, push, delete, all this sorts of stuff. We'll talk about APIs and talking to the internet as well. Collection view and UI table view. These are within the UIKit. So collection view and UI table views, it's basically a different way to structure your view controller. So YouTube has a table view, which when you're scrolling down, that's a table view on the YouTube app, or even on the Instagram app, they use the UI table view where you're scrolling down. We're going to talk about storage, core data, which is more advanced, Swift data, which is newer, or user defaults, which almost every app has some sort of user defaults. And this is just how they call it persist. When you persist data, which it's basically the same as saving or storing data. And then lastly, for on the very, very last lesson, we're going to talk about augmented reality kit and using vision. So that's sort of when it's half 3D. So augmented reality is when you're viewing the world around you and there's little 3D objects. So if you guys use the Pokemon app, that's the app that has a lot of augmented reality in it.
Great. Thank you, Vylon. If there are any questions, the coding training program, just write them and we will answer. So moving on, we have our YouTube channel where you can see interviews with our students who already got their job offer, and you can listen to their stories, how they began their career in IT, and what now their life looks like. Here are the companies where you can being hired by, so it's not just Apple, because a lot of companies and business, they create their app for iPhone, both for iPhone and for Android. So you can join, you can apply like for a lot of vacancy on the market. So about our special offer for participants, you can scan this QR code in order our manager will call you back and answer questions if there are any. So here is special price. You see the discount for one-time payment and installment payment. About installment payments, we have offered like to make payments through all the duration of the course. It's 6 months, so you can break this price for 6 months with with payment once in a month. And so today you attempted the lesson. You saw about you listened about the professional iOS developer, and you can join the program and study for 6 months and get skills which allow you to go to the market and get your first job offer. After the course, you got new skills and new profession. You become developer, as we said, yes, but why you choose iOS developer is that it's easier than Java developer or front-end full stack. You saw today that Swift UI
You
is,
could talk. I was
sorry?
gonna say, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was gonna say that this is a great price. I paid about $11,000 for my boot camp. Lasted about 4 months, and that was in 2017. So that would be even more money today. So I was gonna say
Yeah.
this is a really good price to learn how to do iOS development.
Yes, and into this price, it includes the internship and preparation for the interview, both technical and behavior questions. So it's not only 6 months of the course. Yes, it's also plus, plus plus our internship and career coaching you see here. Yes, so it's 6 months plus internship. Okay. So yes, I call you to take an action and start your future career as an iOS developer. And one more time, here is your motivation. Yes. You see the base salary. And here are like questions. The course starts November 4. The duration of the course is 6 months and lessons are held 4 times per week. If you have any questions that we didn't answer today, just scan this QR code and our manager will call you back. And also you will have this special price, and this special price is for 24 hours. So it's till 31st of October. Hurry up. We make groups about 10 people, so no more, not up to 10. So it's about 10 people in one group. So the teacher has the opportunity to work with each of you. So guys, thank you for being here. And I hope we will see you on our course iOS Developer for November. And Viola, thank you for this amazing presentation and practical lesson. It was really nice to create all these stars and planets. It was really good idea. Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me. I hope to see you guys on November 4th. And my line will always be open for questions too. So when we're going through the course, it's not just the 1 hour. I'll give you guys my personal info and you guys can reach out to me and I'll help you guys with any questions you have.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great rest of your night, you guys.
Yeah, have a nice evening. Bye bye.